1. When I was 18 years old, I took a gap year doing voluntary work on a goat farm in a small village in France. I think I was not mature enough at that age, and I wasn't well enough prepared for living with strangers in a village where everyone was at least 25 years older than me. At least I took every opportunity to take my boss's car and drive to the nearest town, which was 40 kilometers away from where I lived, and only counts about 60,000 residents, to meet some people my age or live an adventure. Since I knew nobody in that town and had no money, I only earned 150 euros a month. I could only meet people who, as me, wandered around having no destination. So I met a lot of homeless and alcoholic, drug-addicted people living in the streets or on welfare. Most of them were very nice people, and me, having a helper syndrome, flourished by trying to talk them out of their situations, showing them hope, and encouraging them to want more from life. I could tell you just this story. I have lived a really weird period in my life back then. But one of the creepiest is the following. I hung out with my new friends, drinking a beer in the sun. Yes, in Europe we were allowed to do so at that age. When a guy came by who I have never seen before. He engaged in a conversation with me and seemed very polite. He asked me if I would like to smoke a joint with him, and I said yes, why not? He stated that he had to get it at his place, and that he would like me to accompany him. He would live nearby. I checked if we understood each other and told him, okay, but there you will get the weed and I will wait outside. We come back here to smoke, right? He affirmed, and we took off. On the way to his place, he started asking a lot of questions like, where in Germany are you from? Are you married? And stuff like that. I felt more and more uncomfortable, which reached its summit when he went on declaring that he wasn't married either and was looking for a good woman to marry like you. At his age, I think he was like 30. He was considered old in Armenia to be unmarried, he told me. I nervously giggled and was watching the environment to find a way out of the situation I put myself into. But there was no one in the streets. We hadn't met someone for a long time, and I doubted that I could run faster than him. Of course, he didn't live nearby, and we'd been walking for at least 20 minutes at that point. I decided to play it cool, trying not to show him how uncomfortable the whole situation made me. We finally arrived, and of course, he tried to convince me into his apartment with him. No, I said. We agreed on getting the weed and smoking with others. We had some 3 minutes of come on, no way talk, and then he totally turned into a beast. He tried to grab me by the arm and pull me into the building. I started screaming, which he didn't expect, so he unfastened his grip on me. I cut loose and just ran away as fast as I could. There were people around, so I was pretty sure he wouldn't follow me, and he didn't. He just yelled insults after me. I ran until my lungs hurt too much to go further. I imagined in panic what could have happened by my own stupidity, but I was far from scenarios I developed later on. When I got back to my friends and told them about the story, they seemed to be not so surprised, telling me that in this town there were Armenian gangs like in that film Taken, who capture young women, taking their passports and selling them, making them work as prostitutes. I don't know if that guy was one of those horrible people, but anyway, I'm so glad that I survived that encounter without any harm. More luck than reason and intelligence, as we would say in German. I've learned 2 things back then. First, never trust a stranger even if he seems so polite and seems like a nice guy just offering something without any hidden agenda. And second, unfortunately, you can't help every person on Earth, and if someone is a drug addict and living in the streets, then the possibility is high that they really do not care about anyone, me in that case, being around and being safe. I say that because I was shocked that none of those friends told me before leaving, hey, I don't think that's a good idea, or hey, I'll come along with you as well. Though they knew about those Armenian gangs. Maybe I learned a third thing about myself, but retrospectively, I was very naive at that age. 2. This incident happened to me over the Christmas holidays this past year, and it just occurred to me that the sheer insanity of it may make a good fit. For reference, I'm a 24-year-old female. My cousin and I decided to go up a few hours north for a nice winter cabin weekend. It was great, nothing creepy at all. On our final day, we packed up at 6 a.m. and hopped in the car to get an early start on the 5-hour drive we had ahead of us. It was a foggy morning, Not actively snowing, but previous snowfalls had piled up quite a bit, making the drive a little risky in the dark early hours of the morning. My cousin was driving, and we were chatting and listening to podcasts, not too aware of our surroundings. We were about 20 minutes into the drive when, unfortunately, the car skidded off the road a little, damn you black ice, and we slightly grazed a tree. We got out to take a look around, and by some miracle there was no damage or anything on the car. As my cousin and I started to laugh with relief, we were just thanking our luck. I shield my eyes because of some idiot with their crazy high beams coming up behind us. So obnoxious, my cousin laughed, starting to open her door to step back in, when the blinding headlights car honks and continues to keep at it as they approach us. My cousin and I looked at each other, super confused, but quickly hopped back in the car. The car begins to slow down, and we're able to see a man in the driver's seat, and he finally takes his hand off his horn and pulls up right next to my cousin's car, which is really dumb because we were off the road, and it was crazy slippery. He rolls down his window and motions for my cousin to roll down ours. We figure it's fine because he's still inside the car and we're in ours. I know, probably still a stupid move. Hey there, ladies, in a rush this morning. Not really, just trying to get home. Can we help you with something? My cousin replies in a totally stone-cold poker face. Oh no, I just noticed you dropped something about 2 kilometers back. It fell off your trunk. My cousin turned to look at me. Did you shut the trunk when we left? Yeah, dude, obviously, I replied. And knowing the way the car is shaped, we would have seen and definitely heard an open trunk. No thanks, sir. I think you might have us mixed up with someone else, my cousin said, and immediately rolled up her window. This man just gave off bad vibes. He starts blaring his horn again and motioning us to roll down the window. My cousin rolls it down again and sees him holding some women's underwear and smiling. See, this looks familiar. I can literally remember the exact tone with which he said that. No thanks, sir. You have a great day now. My cousin quickly rolled up her window again and floored it, quickly hopping back on the road, and thankfully the man was either taken aback or just gave up and we didn't see him for the next hour or so. My cousin and I were both a little shaken up, but tried to laugh it off since we were safe and hadn't seen his car follow us or anything. About 2 hours into the trip, we get off at an exit to fill up gas and grab some breakfast at Starbucks. My cousin and I mobile ordered, and I was gonna quickly run in to grab our food and drinks. It had started snowing at this point, and while the sun had been up for a little bit, it was still foggy and gloomy, making it hard to see the surroundings. I ran in, and as I reached for our food, someone's arm reached over mine to grab a napkin, and I instantly flinched back. When I looked up, I truly almost shat myself. It was a fucking man. Despite him never getting out of the car, he did have his lights on, and I was able to see a clear view of his face. It was him, I'm sure. Look at us, just like old friends. He smiled at me. I immediately looked down, grabbed my food, and started walking out of the store. As I left, I heard him talking to the barista saying, "See that beauty queen? That's my beauty queen." WTF. I almost had tears in my eyes because I was so terrified. I power walked back to the car, almost tripping outside because I was so scared and not walking like a normal person. I hopped in and screamed, "We need to get the fuck back on the road. He's inside the Starbucks." My cousin started laughing, thinking I was pranking her, but she quickly realized that this was not the case when the man walked straight out of the Starbucks a few seconds later, with no drink or food in hand, walking straight towards our car, waving at us. My cousin quickly started to turn the car on. When the man reached into his pocket, I genuinely thought he would pull out a weapon, holding up the underwear he had before. Thankfully, my cousin took no time in backing out of there and speeding back onto the highway. We were both freaking out at this point, not sure how he ended up in the same stop as us, despite us not seeing him behind us at all. He could have taken some sort of back road we didn't know about, but it would have taken him much longer than us to get there, unless he was trailing behind. I don't know. We quickly tried to find an alternate route on our Maps app, and thankfully there was one that made us go through some local roads, which we hoped might help. Of course, with our luck, as we were going through a smaller town, I felt the car getting gradually lower on my side. We pulled over at a well-lit gas station and realized we were losing air in one of the tires. We were both too scared to get out, but figured if we went out together it might be less scary, so we did. We filled up the tire with some air and it seemed to be okay. We got back in the car, back on our way. Everything seemed fine until 10 minutes later when this car seemed to appear out of nowhere directly behind us. My cousin and I looked at each other, having no idea what to do if it were the man. Our suspicions were confirmed when he blared his stupid horn yet again, then quickly swerved off the road to get right next to us. WTF. So this time, he was on my side. He had his window rolled down and was screaming at us. At this point, I gave zero fucks and called my brother-in-law, who's a cop. I know I should have called the police directly. It was a stupid move, but in the moment, I was trying to justify this as being not that serious. My bro-in-law told us to drive directly to the nearest police station and to call them right away so they would be alert. Literally as he was instructing me, the creep braked his car, just stopped at the side of the snowy, icy road. We were still speeding away, so it quickly got harder and harder to see him. But from what I can make out, he had gotten out of his car and was sitting on the hood. Just sitting on the hood of his car, in the freezing, snowy weather. My cousin and I did not want to stop or do anything, with about an hour left in our journey. We decided to just book it straight home, and thankfully, that was the end of that. I know we made a lot of stupid mistakes that could have potentially had horrible consequences, but I'm super happy we made it out alive and unharmed. And why he just sat there at the end. But I don't even want to find out at this point. 3. So this just happened to me like 15 minutes ago, and more than anything I'm just embarrassed that I couldn't have just rolled it off my back and not gotten scared. I live in a fairly low-rent, shady apartment complex since I'm in college, and it's what I can afford. Obviously, we're all social distancing for COVID-19 right now, but I really wanted to try to just get a bit more sunlight to help me keep my sanity from being home all day, every day. So I went out of my apartment and sat on a bench near the bus stop, just to sit for a little while. I put my earbuds in and called a friend. In my peripheral vision, I could see people standing outside their doors to have cigarettes, and a lady walking her dog, but we were all at the very least like 40 feet away from each other, so no one seemed worried. A couple were talking outside their door, and for a moment, I thought they were looking at me. I figured I was just being paranoid, though, until the woman started walking in my direction. As she was walking, I was keeping an eye on it, but trying to keep acting like I hadn't noticed. The bench I was on was near the mailboxes for the whole complex, and the bus stop, so I figured there were plenty of reasons other than me she could be coming my way. That was until she stopped just in front of me. I looked up, noticed I'd seen this woman once before on the bus. She wears a lot of very heavy, dramatic makeup, including drawing a set of eyebrows just below the one she's already growing. She once started talking to me on my morning bus ride to school, and gave me an itemized list of the things she didn't like about my face. I had just sort of smiled and nodded, and then looked the other way the rest of the trip. It looked like maybe she was talking, so I pulled my earbuds out and just hung up on my friend abruptly. "Sorry."
"Could you call the police for me?"
she said. "Oh, okay," I said, picking up my phone.
"Actually, never mind,"
she said quickly. She looked nervous. "Are you sure?"
"Yeah. Could I have $1?
I told her I didn't have any change and apologized.
"Oh, okay. Actually, could you call the police for me?"
"Yes," I said again, unlocking my phone.
"Wait, actually, it's fine,"
she said, now smiling at me. Now, when she said it the first time, my brain at first thought she's not visibly injured, maybe she's in trouble. Has she been fighting with that man I saw her with before? Was she in danger? Was she being so casual with me because she needed help, but didn't want to alert someone that she was trying to get it? I looked her in the eyes and said, "Are you sure? I really can call someone if you need it." She said, "No, it's fine." Now, some important context about me is that I have some history of trauma. I don't really want to elaborate too much, but the short of it is that I'm left with a lot of fear of people touching me or violating my personal space. Because some things from when I was growing up, my body now basically has the worst response when someone violates my boundaries, which is to go very limp and let the other person do whatever they want to me in the hopes that if I don't struggle, they won't hurt me as much. is basically the worst response I could have, but it's very hard to reprogram my body. Due to my mental health issues, I've also spent significant periods of my life in psychiatric hospitals for treatment. I've met a lot of different people with different issues in the hospital, so I have a bit of a sense for when someone might not be all there mentally. The longer I talked to this woman, the more I got the sense that she was perhaps not totally in her right mind. Now, in the hospital, I've had similar experiences where someone who wasn't fully lucid cornered me, and I got trapped in a potentially not safe situation. This is all made worse by my inability to A, get people to just leave me alone, and B, protect my physical space when my body has been triggered in fight or flight. In the hospital, when this happens, the hope is that the staff notice and help me get away, with mixed results, as a lot of things go on in hospitals that the staff are either unaware of or not noticing until it's too late. But that's a different story. So at that moment, my body decided it was time to fuck me over. I started to realize that this woman was getting closer and closer to me, and probably not totally well in the head. My body started pumping adrenaline, which made my hands and legs start to feel weak. I felt like I couldn't get enough breath, and my head started to go a little fuzzy. The woman positioned herself to sit down next to me, and I started to try to get up.
Hey, do you want to walk to the store with me?
She said. I stood up. Oh, sorry. I can't. I have to take my friend to, somewhere. I realized I couldn't think of a lie fast enough. My brain wasn't cooperating. He's, been texting me all day. I'm sorry.
Okay,
she said, now standing next to me. I started to walk from the back bench over to my building. My legs were feeling pretty wobbly, but I tried to walk as casually as possible. Behind me, I could hear her following. She wasn't moving too fast. I thought maybe she thought I wouldn't notice. Still, I tried not to seem scared, not that my legs would have been able to run anyway. I got into my building about 60 seconds before her, and she was still definitely following. I kept thinking I just need to get into my apartment and lock the door before she sees which one is mine. My apartment is on the second floor, but it's a short flight of stairs, and you can see my apartment door from the bottom where the main door to the building is. I tried to run up them, but my head was swimming and my legs weren't cooperating. It's like that feeling you get when you're half awake, and you try to move your limbs and they sort of do what you tell them, but not really. Like they feel sort of far away from you and only semi under your control. I made it up the stairs, and luckily, I'd left my door unlocked. I got in and closed it behind me, just as I heard her opening the main door to the building below me. I locked all 3 locks in my door and went over to the window to see if I could see her. She wasn't visible from the window, which meant she was still in my building. I texted my dad and asked if he thought I still ought to call the police. He told me I should. I went into my bedroom and called 911. Now, the windows in my bedroom show the other side of the building and the back door. The operator asked for a description and if I knew where she was now, and I told her I couldn't see her out my front windows, so I thought she was still in the building. Then suddenly I saw her walk out and just stand below my window. The 911 operator said she'd send a few officers and to call them back if she left. I backed away from the window a bit. I was worried she'd see me looking at her and then know which unit I was in. She looked around her for a bit and then just slowly started wandering away towards a different building. Within about 5 minutes, 3 cop cars, it must have been a slow day, rolled in and stopped behind my apartment. They noticed her standing over by the other building, looking like she might try to talk to the woman walking her dog. 2 of the officers parked and went to talk to her while the 3rd drove off. I was watching as they talked to her for a while, and then eventually the man I'd seen her talking to at the start came out of a different building than they'd been standing in front of before, and seemed to coax her in. The officers let her go and talked to the woman with her dog for a moment, then drove away. I think they probably decided she has mental health issues but wasn't actively a threat to anyone, so they let it be, which is okay by me. I know that some people deal with chronic issues, and can be a little alarming to the people in their community, but most of the time don't actually pose much of a threat. Now I'm just sitting here feeling like an overdramatic fool, and waiting to regain full control of my limbs, and for my heart rate to go down. But lady with 4 eyebrows, I'd really like us to stop meeting. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories, episode 484. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Well, the stories are starting to get up to date, as you heard there. Social distancing, that sort of thing. I have not recorded as I record this yet. I've got feelers out for spinning plate stories. They might be a little thin on the ground, but I'll do what I can. If not, I'll pop something else up. And if you are stuck in the house, you're looking for something to do that, once you've gone through my almost 1,500 videos back catalogue, obviously you want to do that first. I recommend a few podcasts. I suggest you check out Hollywood Babylon with Kevin Smith, Ralph Garman. Yeah, you might also enjoy Inside of You with Kevin Smith. And David Tennant, the actor who played the 10th Doctor, he's also got a podcast it's worth checking out. It can get a little actory at times. They obviously get actors on. They're talking about the business and that, but quite enjoyable nonetheless. Any others are worth recommending? I don't know if she still does this one, so don't quote me, but I believe Aisha Tyler, I know she used to have a podcast called Girl on Guy. It was mostly her interviewing men, but every now and again she would interview women as well. Quite enjoyable. There's a good one with Jerry Ryan that was I quite liked. I think we'll wrap up there for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourself.